The human exploration ship, Dauntless, drifted quietly through the dark void of space. Its crew had been trained to face the unknown, but nothing could have prepared them for what they were about to witness. For months, they had followed strange signals that came from an uncharted world near the edge of the Orion Arm. The signals carried a pattern, too structured to be natural, too rhythmic to be random. Everyone believed they had finally found intelligent life. As the ship entered orbit, tension filled the control room. Officers spoke in hushed tones. Scientists scribbled notes, and the captain stood still, his eyes fixed on the viewing screen. The planet below was alive with forests, oceans, and glowing cities. Humanity was not alone anymore. They had always expected this day to come, but no one knew what kind of beings would greet them. A message came through, clear, soft, and calm. It was a female voice speaking in flawless translation. "Welcome, travelers. You are expected. One of us will meet you." The words sent a chill down every spine. Not only were they aware of humans, they had been waiting. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Soon a shuttle docked with Dauntless. Every officer gathered in the main hall, standing in perfect rows, uniforms spotless, their hearts pounding. The door opened with a hiss, and from the mist of the docking chamber she appeared. She was tall, graceful, and her skin seemed to glow faintly under the artificial lights. Her long silver hair flowed freely down her back, and her eyes carried a calm that felt almost ancient. But what struck the humans most, the thing that left every man and woman speechless, was that she wore no clothing at all. Not a thread. Not even a symbol of modesty. She walked with complete confidence, as if nothing about her state was unusual. For a moment, silence ruled the hall. Some officers quickly looked away, embarrassed. Others stared in shock, unable to believe what they were seeing. A young ensign dropped his datapad, the sound echoing through the chamber. The alien woman paused, her expression soft, almost amused. "I am Elira," she said with dignity. "I come from the people you call the Serath. We do not wear coverings, for we believe nothing must hide the truth of who we are. To cover oneself is to live in dishonor. I stand before you as I was born, without shame." The words only deepened the silence. Humanity had faced many challenges: wars, famine, even the endless cold of space. But this was different. Culture itself was being challenged. Everything humans had built their societies on, clothing, privacy, modesty, was being questioned. By the calm voice of a stranger, the captain cleared his throat, trying to regain order. "We welcome you aboard, Elira. Humanity greets you in peace." His voice trembled ever so slightly, betraying the storm inside him. As Elira walked further into the hall, the humans noticed the way she moved. There was no hesitation, no fear, no attempt to cover herself. Her steps were silent but powerful, her gaze meeting each human like she was looking into their soul. It was not seduction nor arrogance. It was something far deeper, an unshakable belief in her way of life. Whispers began to ripple through the crowd. A medic whispered to an officer, "This must be some kind of ritual." Another muttered, "No, it's who they are. They don't believe in clothing." The realization spread like fire. Elira stopped at the center of the hall. She raised her hand, palm open, a gesture of peace. "Your people must have questions. I will answer them. But know this, my people cannot and will not change who we are. We come with no shame, no lies, and no chains. This is our truth." The hall grew colder. The humans knew that if this truth became known across Earth, it would ignite chaos. Entire societies were built around the idea of clothing. Religions demanded it, laws required it. Even the thought of children growing up with such alien beliefs would spark protests and riots. And yet, Elira stood there as if nothing about this moment was strange. To her, the shock in their eyes was the real mystery. The captain struggled to find words. "Elira, we thank you for coming, but understand your ways may be difficult for us to accept." Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "I understand. Every species clings to the comfort of its illusions. But illusions always fall, Captain. The question is, how will humanity face the truth when it comes? The crew shifted uncomfortably. Those words carried weight beyond her bare presence. They hinted at something larger, something hidden beneath her calm demeanor. The first contact that humanity had dreamed of for centuries had not come with lasers or wars, nor with strange beasts or gods. It had come in the form of one woman, one fearless alien who walked unashamed before them. And in her quiet defiance, humanity saw not weakness, but a kind of strength that unsettled them to their core. The meeting ended with forced politeness, but the damage was done. Whispers filled the corridors of Dauntless. Officers argued in private. Some spoke of danger, others of opportunity. Some even felt admiration for her courage. But one thing was certain. This was no ordinary first contact. Elira's presence was not just a meeting between species. It was the beginning of a storm that could shake the foundations of human society itself. As Elira returned to her quarters, she looked back once at the captain. Her silver eyes held a quiet fire, as if she knew the chaos she had unleashed. And, she whispered softly, words that only she could hear, the universe will change now. Humanity must choose. The next morning, Elira was invited to the council chamber of the Dauntless. The humans sat in a circle, uniforms pressed, faces tense. They had rehearsed this moment again and again, but none of their training prepared them for the sight of the alien woman walking in without a single piece of clothing, her head high, her silver hair flowing behind her like a banner. The silence was heavy as she entered. Captain Rains, who had been awake all night trying to plan his words, forced himself to stand. Elira of the Seraph, he began, voice steady but tight. We thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We seek peace. We seek understanding. Elira's eyes moved across each human face, calm but piercing. And peace you shall have. But understanding... She paused, letting her words linger in the tense air. That depends on your willingness to face truth without fear. The humans shifted in their seats. Some avoided her gaze. Others leaned forward, curious. Dr. Malik, the ship's chief scientist, cleared his throat. Elira, forgive my bluntness, but your choice of appearance confuses us. In our culture, clothing is not only tradition but protection, dignity, modesty. Elira tilted her head slightly as if studying a child. In my people's eyes, clothing is the opposite of dignity. It is a mask, a wall, a barrier between truth and deception. The Seraph believed that nothing should be hidden, not the body, not the spirit. To us, clothing is dishonor. It is the first lie. A murmur swept the chamber. One officer shook his head in disbelief. Another whispered, "This is madness." Captain, Rains raised his hand for silence. Elira, please understand. For us, covering the body is a sign of respect. Many on Earth would see your way as dangerous, even offensive. How do you expect our people to accept this? Elira's lips curved in the faintest smile. Your people already live in chains of shame. I do not expect them to accept. I expect them to struggle. But truth does not bow to fear. The tension in the room cracked like glass. Commander Hale, known for his bluntness, leaned forward, his voice sharp. So you come here, walk among us, and expect us to throw away centuries of custom? To let our children, our families live as you do? Is that what you want? To erase our way of life? Elira's silver eyes met his without flinching. No, Commander, I do not seek to erase, I seek to reveal. Your way of life is built on shadows. My people lived under shadows once too, and we tore them down. The words hit like a hammer. A silence followed, heavy, suffocating. Each human felt the weight of her statement, though none understood the full story yet. It was Dr. Malik who tried to soften the moment. He leaned forward, hands folded, voice gentle. Elira, perhaps it is only a matter of perspective. What is truth to you may be different to us. Perhaps both can exist. Elira, looked at him kindly, almost with pity. Perhaps, but the stars do not ask permission to shine. Truth does not split itself in half to make others comfortable. The council chamber grew colder. Some humans looked angry, others frightened, and a few strangely inspired. But deep down, everyone knew this misunderstanding was not small. It was not about modesty or respect. It was something much deeper. After the meeting, the humans retreated into private conversations. Commander Hale stormed into the captain's office. "We can't let this continue. If word spreads to Earth that we are entertaining a species like hers, there will be chaos. Religion, politics, everything will explode." Captain Rains rubbed his temples, exhaustion written on his face. "What do you suggest? We can't dictate their way of life. They came in peace." "They came to test us," Hale snapped. "And if we bend, the galaxy will see us as weak." Meanwhile, in the lower decks, the younger crew whispered among themselves. Some were scandalized, mocking Elira behind closed doors. But others were strangely drawn to her courage. A young communications officer whispered, "She wasn't ashamed at all. Can you imagine living like that? No fear, no hiding?" His friend shook his head, uneasy. "It's unnatural. It'll tear us apart." Back in her quarters, Elira sat alone, meditating. Her calm breathing filled the silent room. She had seen the storm in their eyes, the fear and the fascination. She had seen it many times before, on many worlds. Humanity was not the first species to misunderstand the Seraph, but perhaps they would be the first to learn. For Elira carried a secret, a truth hidden in the history of her people, a truth that explained why her kind rejected clothing with such unshakable passion. And soon, humanity would learn it, whether they were ready or not. Word of Elira spread faster than light. Though the Dauntless kept official reports sealed, whispers always found a way to escape. By the time the crew had finished their second meeting with her, the colonies were already buzzing with rumors. An alien woman without clothing walks among humans. That was how the news first reached Earth. And once those words escaped, no force in the galaxy could hold them back. On Earth, the story was chaos. Religious leaders appeared on every broadcast, furious, warning that such customs would poison the moral foundation of humanity. One priest shouted to millions of viewers, "This is not enlightenment, it is corruption. Humanity must not bow to alien indecency." But in the great cities, protests erupted in the streets. Some marched with signs reading, "Freedom has no chains." Others demanded the alien be sent back at once. Governments scrambled to hold meetings, unsure of how to react. Even before official confirmation, humanity was already at war with itself. Over, a truth most had not even seen with their own eyes. On the Dauntless, the crew was no less divided. At night, in the dim corridors, small groups argued in whispers. One officer slammed his fist against the wall. "If Earth learns we entertained her without protest, our careers are finished." Another whispered back, "Maybe she's right. Maybe we're the ones living in lies." The younger crew especially felt the weight of her presence. Ensign Clark, barely 20, confessed to his bunkmate, "When she walked past me, I felt free. Like she wasn't just herself, but carrying something bigger, something we've been afraid of." His bunkmate spat in disgust. "Free? That's madness. That woman is a weapon. She doesn't need a gun. She'll tear our society apart, with her body alone." Meanwhile, Captain Rains sat alone in his private quarters staring at the transmission logs. Reports from Earth begged him for answers, but what could he say? How could he explain to a planet of billions that a single alien woman had made half his crew question the foundation of their world? He rubbed his temples, whispering, "What am I supposed to do with you, Elira?" In the council chamber, the senior staff held a private debate. Commander Hale slammed the table. "This is psychological warfare, don't you see? She doesn't need to fire a shot. She's already divided Earth. We should isolate her. Lock her away until we know what she wants." Dr. Malik shook his head, his voice calm but firm. "Hale, listen to yourself. You want to cage her for walking freely? That will not silence the truth, only prove her right. Perhaps we need to ask ourselves why we fear her so much. The arguments grew louder. One officer shouted, "She's dangerous." Another cried, "She's inspiring." The room became a storm of voices until the captain slammed his hand down. "Enough! We cannot let fear dictate our actions." His words silenced the chamber, but in their silence came only more doubt. Far, away in her quarters, Elira sat cross-legged on the floor, listening through the thin walls. She heard their arguments, their fears, their anger, and she smiled faintly. Humanity was reacting exactly as she expected. They were fighting not her, but themselves. Her people had seen this pattern countless times before. Yet, there was something different in humanity's struggle. They were louder, more stubborn, and yet beneath their fear she sensed an unusual courage. Perhaps, just perhaps, they might understand in time. The next day, a secret message arrived from Earth. It was coded, urgent, and stamped with the seal of the High Council. The captain read it twice, his heart sinking. It said only, "Control the alien. Do not allow her to display her customs publicly. Contain this infection before it spreads." Rains clenched his jaw. He imagined Elira standing before him, fearless, unashamed. How could he order her to cover herself when her very identity was tied to her freedom? Yet if he defied Earth, he would be branded a traitor. Humanity's future now rested on a choice he was not ready to make. That evening, in the mess hall, the crew gathered in uneasy silence. Elira entered without hesitation. Conversations died instantly. Some crew members looked away in shame. Others glared in open anger. But many stared with something else in their eyes. Curiosity, even admiration. She walked among them like a ghost of truth, unshaken by their judgment. Then it happened. A young officer, red with anger, stood and shouted, "You disgrace us all. You have no right to walk among us like this." His voice cracked with fury. "You mock everything we are." Elira turned to face him. She did not argue, did not raise her voice. She simply stepped closer until her calm eyes met his furious ones. And in that silence, something broke. His anger wavered. His voice died. He turned away, trembling, unable to meet her gaze again. The hall remained silent as Elira spoke softly, her voice carrying like music through the room. "Fear is the loudest chain. Break it, and you will know freedom." Then she left as calmly as she had entered. That night the ship was restless. No one could sleep. Each crew member lay awake, turning her words over in their minds. Some cursed her, others whispered them like a prayer. And far across the galaxy, Earth itself waited for the captain's decision. For in this silent debate, humanity was not just questioning an alien custom. They were questioning themselves. The tension on the Dauntless had reached its peak. Every corridor hummed with whispers. Every console carried secret transmissions, and every officer carried questions too heavy to ignore. Captain Rains knew he could not delay forever. Orders from Earth were clear. Contain Elira, silence her customs, but his instincts whispered a warning. If he forced her to change, he might lose more than her trust. He might lose humanity's chance at true peace. Late into the night, he made his choice. He asked for a private meeting. No council, no staff, no distractions. Only him and Elira. She agreed without hesitation. When she entered the dim chamber, she carried the same calm as always. No clothing, no armor, no disguise. Her presence alone filled the room with both unease and strange respect. The captain sat across from her, his hands clasped on the table. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Rains broke the silence. "Elira, I must understand. Why? Why does your people reject clothing? You say it is dishonor, you say it is chains. But chains of what?" Elira studied him carefully. Then, with a sigh, she leaned back, her silver eyes softening. I wondered when you would ask. Your people have debated, argued, shouted among themselves. But few have dared to ask the simplest question. Why? The captain leaned forward. Then, tell me. Give me something I can take back to Earth. Something they will understand. Elira closed her eyes. Her voice grew lower, heavier, as if she was pulling each word from a buried wound. Long ago, before your species ever touched the stars, the Serath were slaves. We were conquered by a cruel empire, the Vanar Dominion. To break us, they gave us coverings. Not armor, not uniforms. Shackles of fabric, chains disguised as dignity. They forced us to hide our bodies, to erase our pride, to see shame in our very existence. And with each garment, we lost a piece of ourselves. We forgot what it meant to be free. Rains felt a chill run through him. Elira's words painted an image sharper than any history lesson. He could almost see her people, once strong, broken by invisible chains. Her voice hardened. For generations we lived under those shadows. Our children were taught that to cover was virtue. To hide was survival. And slowly the Serath spirit began to die. We obeyed. We submitted. We became less than ourselves. Her eyes opened, burning with quiet fire. Until one day we rose. We tore off the coverings. We burned them in great fires that lit the night skies. We stood naked before our masters and declared, "Never again shall we hide who we are." It was our rebellion, our revolution. It was how we won back our freedom. The captain swallowed, his throat dry. Suddenly, her presence, her calm defiance, carried new meaning. She was not flaunting shame. She was carrying the memory of her people's chains. Elira's voice softened again. Since that day, the Serath vowed never to wear coverings again. For us, clothing is not modesty. It is slavery. We would rather die than return to those chains. This is why I stand as I am. Not to insult you, not to provoke you, but to honor my ancestors who tore off their shackles. Her. They would not see rebellion. They would see scandal. But could they be taught to see what he now understood? Finally, he asked, "Do you expect humanity to live as you do? To abandon clothing forever?" Elira shook her head gently. "No. Each species must walk its own path. I ask only that you understand mine. If you demand that I cover myself, you are not asking for compromise. You are asking me to betray everything my people fought for. You would ask me to become a slave again." Those words struck like a blade. The captain leaned back, his face pale. He imagined delivering that message to Earth. He imagined the fury, the fear, the riots. And yet, he also imagined something else. He imagined humanity standing not as judges, but as allies. Rains whispered almost to himself, "The galaxy will never accept this." Elira leaned closer, her silver eyes locking onto his. The galaxy does not have to accept. It only has to face the truth. And truth is stronger than fear. For a long moment there was silence. Two leaders from different worlds sitting in the dark, bound by a choice neither could escape. At last Elira stood, her movements graceful, unshaken. "You must decide, Captain. Will humanity stand with us or against us? Will you demand that we bow, or will you walk with us in freedom?" As she turned to leave, Rains called after her, "Elira, if I tell my people this, they may see you as a threat. They may call for war." She paused at the door, her silhouette outlined in the faint glow of the ship's lights. "Then perhaps war is already within you. Not with me, not with the Serath, but within your own hearts." And with that she was gone, leaving the captain alone with a choice that could shape the fate of two civilizations. The truth could not be hidden any longer. Captain Rains's private meeting with Elira was logged, and though he never meant for her words to spread, the message leaked. Somewhere in the transmission lines, someone had copied the recording. Within days, Elira's story, the slavery of her people, their rebellion, Their vow never to wear coverings again was broadcast across Earth and the colonies. The effect was explosive. In the cities of Earth, giant screens flashed with her image, her calm silver eyes looking directly at billions. Some watched in awe, whispering about her courage. Others shouted in rage, throwing stones at the screens. Religious leaders thundered that Elira's message was heresy. Politicians demanded her containment. But in the streets, crowds grew louder every night. Some chanted for freedom, for change, for a new way of life. Others screamed that the alien must be exiled before her poison spread. Colonies fractured even faster. On Mars, miners painted murals of Elira, calling her the woman without chains. On Titan, riots broke out, soldiers forced to open fire, as mobs demanded freedom from the false modesty of Earth. Families divided, friendships ended, entire communities split apart, all because one alien woman stood firm in her truth. On the Dauntless, the pressure boiled. Half the crew wanted her gone. Commander Hale led that faction, storming through the corridors, his voice sharp and bitter. Every second she remains on this ship, she divides us further. She is not a guest. She is a weapon. But others defended her. Young officers whispered her words like scripture. Fear is the loudest chain. Break it and you will know freedom. They spoke of Elira not as an enemy, but as a prophet. The ship felt less like a vessel and more like a battlefield. The captain walked the halls with heavy steps, feeling his command slipping. Every glance between crew members carried suspicion. Every silence carried anger. One night, in the mess hall, the tension snapped. Two groups of crew, one supporting Elira, the other condemning her, collided in a shouting match. Voices rose, fists clenched, chairs slammed to the ground. It ended with blood on the floor and 3 officers in the med bay. When the captain heard the report, he knew the situation was out of his control. Elira had become more than an alien guest. She was now a symbol, a mirror forcing humanity to see itself, and the reflection was tearing them apart. Meanwhile, Elira moved calmly through the chaos. She walked the ship's corridors with her quiet grace, unaffected by stares, curses, or whispered prayers. She neither provoked nor explained. Her very existence was enough. To those who hated her, she was defiance made flesh. To those who admired her, she was living proof that chains could be broken. But even Elira knew the storm was nearing its peak. The captain called her to his quarters once more, his face gray with exhaustion. Do you see what is happening? Earth is burning with your words. The colonies are tearing themselves apart. My crew is ready to mutiny. All because of you. Elira looked at him with quiet sadness. No, Captain, not because of me. Because of themselves. I did not bring chains to humanity. They were already here. I only showed them the weight they carry. Rains slammed his hand against the desk. They're not ready for your truth. Can't you see? You're destroying us. Her voice was calm but firm. Truth always destroys before it builds. That is the way of the universe. The question is, will humanity endure the fire or let it consume them? The captain's voice cracked. And if we fall apart? Elira's silver eyes met his, unflinching. Then perhaps humanity was never what I hoped it could be. The words pierced him deeper than any blade. That same night, Earth sent its final order. The High Council's message was clear. Force the alien to conform or remove her by any means. Humanity cannot be divided further. The captain stared at the words for hours, the weight of command crushing him. To obey meant betraying Elira and everything she represented. To defy meant turning against his own people. Either choice would ignite history. On the colonies, fires burned in the streets. On Earth, cities swelled with protests, soldiers in riot, gear marching against their own people. In orbit, fleets prepared for war, not against the Serath, but against one another. The galaxy watched in silence, unsure if humanity would break apart from within. On the Dauntless, Elira stood at the viewing port, her eyes on the stars. She could feel the storm surrounding her, pressing closer every moment. Yet her face remained calm, her body unshaken. She had lived through rebellion before. She had seen chains broken in fire. And now, she whispered softly to herself, humanity stands at the edge. Will they rise or will they fall? The answer would come soon. The breaking point had arrived. The Dauntless hung silent in orbit, its crew torn by fear, anger, and hope. The corridors that once rang with laughter and duty now echoed with whispers of mutiny. Outside, the stars watched coldly, waiting for humanity to decide its fate. Captain Rains stood in the command chamber, the High Council's order glowing on the screen before him. Contain the alien. Silence her truth. End this infection before it spreads. The words burned like fire in his eyes. He could obey, secure his career, save his people from further division. Or he could defy Earth and risk everything. His officers gathered, faces grim. Commander Hale was first to speak, his voice sharp. We have no choice. She must be forced to cover herself or be removed from the ship. Earth is on the edge of collapse. His words drew nods from some, but others shifted uneasily. Dr. Malik leaned forward, his tone quiet but unshaken. Captain, if we silence her, we prove her right. We prove we are ruled by fear. The debate grew heated, voices rising, but Rains heard none of it. His mind was on Alira, her silver eyes, her calm words, her story of rebellion. He remembered the way she spoke of chains, of burning them in great fires, and he thought of humanity, his humanity still shackled by its own fears. Finally, he raised his hand. The room fell silent. Enough. This decision is mine alone. His voice was steady, but inside, his heart pounded. He summoned Elira to the chamber. She entered with the same quiet grace, unshaken by the storm around her. She looked at him, then at the council of officers, sensing the tension in their eyes. You have decided, she said softly, not as a question, but as a truth. Rains took a long breath. Earth demands that you cover yourself. They demand that I silence your truth. The room grew colder. Some officers lowered their eyes. Others leaned forward in anticipation. Elira stood still, her face calm, but her eyes burning with fire. And what do you demand, Captain? The words weighed heavier than any command. Rains stepped closer, his voice firm, every syllable carrying the weight of humanity's future. I will not ask you to betray who you are. I will not force chains back onto your people. Humanity will stand with the Serath. Gasps filled the chamber. Commander Hale shot to his feet. You're dooming us. Earth will brand you a traitor. But his protests were drowned out by the shock that rippled across the crew. Elira's eyes softened, her lips curving into the faintest smile. Then humanity has chosen truth. The chains will break. News of the decision spread within hours. The Dauntless transmitted its declaration to Earth and the colonies. Humanity recognizes the Serath and their customs. We will not demand their submission. We will stand beside them in freedom. The galaxy erupted. On Earth, millions flooded the streets. Some cheered, raising Elira's name as a symbol of courage. Others rioted, furious that their leaders had bent to alien influence. Armies were mobilized, but the protests only grew. Humanity was no longer united, but it was awake. The colonies shook with equal force. On Mars, the miners lit bonfires, burning clothes in symbolic rebellion. On Titan, soldiers laid down their weapons rather than fight their own people. Across the stars, the human race split. But in that split, something new was born. A movement that could not be silenced. And beyond humanity, the galaxy watched with awe and fear. Empires that had ruled for centuries paused, shaken by the sight of Earth siding with defiance. Species long crushed by tyrants whispered Elira's words in their own tongues. The Serath, once alone in their vow, now had allies among the fiercest species in the stars. In time, Earth's High Council would rage, threaten, and try to regain control. But the truth was already free. No order, no law, no army could erase it. Humanity had made its choice before the galaxy's eyes, and the shock waves would echo for generations. On the Dauntless, Elira stood beside the captain at the viewing port. Together they watched the stars, silent companions in a new age. "You have changed the path of your people," she said softly. "You have chosen courage." Rains shook his head. "No. You gave us the choice. Humanity only walked through the fire." Elira's gaze lingered on him, her silver eyes filled with something rare, hope. "Then perhaps you will be more than I dreamed." And in that quiet moment, as the galaxy trembled with the weight of their decision, humanity proved once again why they were never to be underestimated. The universe would never be the same again.